All right, today we're looking at section 1.2e, solving story problems. We have a variety of keywords that we're looking at today. We have an algebraic translation of words that you're going to see in story problems that represent a certain algebraic step that you need to do. So when we're looking at this, we have keywords that describe things that are equal to others, that we add, subtract, multiply, or divide together, whichever one is necessary. And you're going to want to go ahead and take all these down as notes. So you'll have a cheat sheet with which to compare a word problem that you come across and the words in them and say, oh, I remember something that said decreased by. What does that mean? Ah, it subtracts. So there's going to be a minus sign somewhere. We have the equals options up here, equal to, same as, is as much as, add, plus sum, plus, increased by, multiply, dimension, product is a common one. Of is frequently used, and that's a word that you want to look out for, just as by is. I should say that's product of. I mean, product of is frequently used. By is sometimes used to mean a dimension, like 8 by 6. And you'll see other things like twice, triple, double, so on and so forth. Division. Division actually has the least amount of terms that are used for it. Divided, quotient are two of the common ones. Usually it's some synonym of divided, like something is sorted into parts across different groups, for example, might be divided. At the bottom we also have consecutive and odd. Those are other ones you'll see, odd being referring to odd numbers. Consecutive are those numbers that appear in order. Likewise, we have a few more to take a look at. These ones will probably not come up quite as much, and if you're not done taking notes, make sure you pause the video so you have enough time. We also have perimeter, area, and mean. So perimeter refers to, it's like if you have a rectangular field, for example, and you put a fence around it, the perimeter is the fencing. The area refers to how many square feet or square miles or whatever the field takes up within the perimeter. So the perimeter is the outside edge, the crust, like the crust of the earth, and then the area is the part that's inside. Area is also always two-dimensional, which is why it is length times width being multiplied together. Perimeter is the sum of those distances. Finally, the mean is the sum of all numbers divided by the number of numbers that are present in the top. So if you add 10 numbers together up here, you divide by 10 on the bottom. Mean is another word for average, although average is a little bit less specific most of the time because we have a variety of averages, but this is the conventional average we should be familiar with. So make sure you pause the video or rewind it a little bit, or go back. You can't really rewind things anymore. So you can get all those notes down, and I'm going to go ahead and go over a few examples. So example 1. You walk 25 miles in a week. You travel the following distances each day. So Monday, we travel 3.5 miles. Tuesday is 5.5 miles. Wednesday, we didn't go for a walk at all. Thursday, we travel 5 miles. And we don't know how many miles we went on Friday. So we need to solve for how many miles that we went on Friday. Because we know that we went 25 miles total, we just don't know how many miles that was. But we can put a stand-in for how many miles that would be, and we'll say it's X miles. And from here, we need to set up an equation that will allow us to solve this. So we need to pull out all of our pieces of information. Pretty much every time you see a number in one of these problems, that's an important piece of information. So we have 25, 3.5, 5.50, 5, And we already know what our question mark is, and that's the x. So we know that these 5 days must sum to 25 because we know we traveled 25 miles in a week. So consequently, we have 25 equals something. We have 5 days that we walked, and on those days we walked 3.5, 5.5, 0, 5, and an unknown number of miles. These 5 values tell us how many equal 25, and consequently we can go ahead and solve for x. If you were to think about this even without the algebraic part, you would say, well, I know what I walked on the first 4 days. The 5th day must be all the remaining miles, and I don't know how many that is, but if I know the other 4 days, I can figure it out. And probably normally what you would do is you would start with 25 and you'd just say, well, subtract 3.5, and then subtract 5.5, and then subtract 5, and then the remainder has to be Friday, since I also know I went 0 miles on Wednesday. And that makes this a pretty good introductory problem because it's something you can do intuitively, and if necessary, you can work backwards from your intuition, which can potentially help you on later problems. So on this one, we need to combine like terms, and our like terms here are these numbers. So we need to add 3.5, 5.5, 5, and 0 together. So over here we still have our 25. 3.5 plus 5.5 is 8.59, plus 5 is 14. And then we have our x, which cannot be combined. Finally, we need to do our one-step equation and solve for x here. So 14 plus x, this is a positive 14, so we have to subtract the 14. You have to make sure you subtract here. You'll know that you've made an error because if you add, you can think, wait, 14 plus 14 is 28. 28 plus x doesn't get me closer to solving the problem. So we definitely need to subtract because 14 minus 14 is 0, which causes it to go away, leaving us with x equals 11. And of course, since this is a story problem, we need to give our answer in context. We were talking about miles, therefore the answer is 11 miles. Okay, the next one is going to be a little bit more complicated than that last one was. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. On example 2, we're going to talk about the drama club. Maybe this will hit a little bit closer to home for some of you than others. But the drama club charges $4 per person, $4 per person to attend a play. So the ticket charge is $4. The club borrowed $400 for their recent play. The play also made a profit of $100. And our question is this: how many tickets were sold? Well, we know the cost per ticket, and we know that they lost $400 in making it, and they ended up making $100. So if you're thinking about this just from like a logical money perspective, you might say, well, they spent $400 and their only source of income was selling tickets. So we're adding in $4 and we're losing $400, but ultimately we're going to end up with $100. So we need to try and put this into an algebraic equation that'll allow us to solve it. And extending the money thing, we can think, okay, we have money coming in, we have money going out, and we have the final result. Most of the time when you end up with a final result in these problems, the final result ends up being whatever our equation is equal to. And this is a great example where that is the case. Just like in the last one where our total of 25 miles was sitting on one side of the equal sign, and this one, the 100, is also sitting there alone, because that's our net profit. Now, we spent $400. The plus 100 means that came into us. We would put a minus 400 to represent that we lost $400. And that was spent on probably, costumes and production. Now, the only thing left is the $4 per person. Now, the thing we're looking for is how many people went to the play. And we know that we're going to earn $4 for every person that shows up. $4 per person. Whenever you see something that's like a per person, that pretty much always means multiplication. And in this case, that is going to be a 4 times x, or a 4x, because this is a 4 times x, and our x, which I just wrote off the screen, x is number of tickets sold. So, in order to figure out how much money came in, we need to look at how much we had when we multiplied 4 times the number of tickets that we ended up selling. And our number of tickets here is x. Now, I think from an intuitive standpoint, this is probably something you were able to see, but it can be a little bit more difficult to put it into algebra. But once we have it in our algebra, this is only a 2-step equation. All we need to do to get this sorted out is we first need to isolate our x term, which is 4x. So I'm going to add 400 to both sides. Now we have 4x equals 500. This is a good spot to stop and conceptually think about what this says. This says that 500 total dollars came in. If we lost $400 earlier on spending to make the play, that means we must have made 500 in order for there to be a profit of 100. Finally, as we have done in the previous portions of this chapter, we simply need to divide by the 4 attached to the x, which gives us x equals 125. That 125, of course, refers to the number of tickets sold. So we would say 125 tickets sold. And that would be our final answer. We have one more example problem to take a look at today. So let's go ahead and look at it. And again, feel free to rewind and pause and go back, blah, blah, blah. Our last example asks us to find the perimeter of a fence. And this one actually is going to be nice enough to give us a picture to go with. So our perimeter of fence is 156 feet. And our fence can be described with the following shape. Now if you go back to what we were describing earlier, this is a rectangle. As you can see, these sides are equal to each other. If we remember our perimeter is the sum of the length of all of the sides. And we actually have all the sides listed here. So that means all we need to do is add them all up and then set it equal to what the perimeter of our fence is, which is also given as 156 feet. This is pretty similar to the first problem we did, actually. A lot of collecting like terms and not a lot of other math required. So we need to add all of our fences together. We have x plus 2x plus 6, that came up here, plus another x, plus another 2x plus 6. And I totally missed putting one of my x's in. Don't make that mistake. I had originally meant to put it right here. And we know that this equals 156 feet. So from here, we just need to combine our like terms and then solve. And boy, do we have a lot of like terms. These go together, and these go together. So all the ones I just underlined in green. And then these regular numbers also go together. So when we add our x's, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6x, and 6 plus 6 is 12. From here, it's just a 2-step problem. We add 12, so we need to subtract it. This gives us 6x equals 144. And then we need to divide both sides by 6. And that tells us our x is equal to 24. And now, I didn't really expand on this, but we were looking to find the length of each of the sides of our fence. Now, this side is simply just 24 feet because it equals x. The other one, however, we need to plug in the 24 for the 2x, or into the 2x plus 6. So that gives us 2 times 24, which is 48, plus 6 equals 54. So the short side of our fence is 24 feet, and the long side is 54 feet. And that concludes this problem.